South Park has never been about luck. Every controversy, every ban, every near cancellation, it wasn't chance, it was precision chaos. While other shows survive by playing safe, South Park survives by stepping into disaster and coming out laughing. These are the moments where Trey Parker and Matt Stone proved they didn't need luck. They built a career on defying it. In 2010, South Park hit its 200th episode, and nearly lost everything because of it. The episodes 200 and 201 were meant to be a celebration of chaos, a massive roast of every celebrity the show had ever mocked. Tom Cruise, Kanye West, Barbra Streisand, all of them came back for revenge inside a two-part storyline that was supposed to end with one last punchline: the Prophet Muhammad. Trey Parker and Matt Stone weren't trying to provoke outrage. They were doing what they'd always done: push the line so far that the line moved. But this time, the world pushed back. Within hours of 200 airing, death threats poured in. A radical group posted Viacom's headquarters address online, warning there would be consequences if Muhammad appeared again. Comedy Central executives went into panic mode. Entire scenes were blacked out. Kyle's closing monologue, the one meant to explain the episode's real message about censorship, was bleeped into silence. The broadcast ended with minutes of pure audio distortion, a blank screen where the creator's words were supposed to be. Trey Parker later called it the first time censorship won. The team had spent years mocking politicians, religions, and Hollywood elites, but this was different. It wasn't a bad review or a lawsuit, it was physical danger. Viacom's New York office increased security. Comedy Central refused to re-air the episode. For the first time, South Park had been silenced. But they didn't stay quiet. The uncut version of 201 leaked online years later and became one of the most pirated television files in history. Millions searched for it, downloaded it, shared it. Proof that even when the episode was buried, its message survived. South Park didn't get lucky that year. They didn't even win. They just refused to lose. For a comedy show to stand its ground against real threats wasn't luck. It was survival. 5 years earlier, in 2005, another war had already tested their limits. Trapped in the Closet aired that November, and from the first minute, Trey and Matt knew what they were doing. The episode mocked Scientology's belief system, showing its creation myth, the story of Xenu, in full animation with the caption, "This is what Scientologists actually believe." It also roasted Tom Cruise, literally locking him in a closet and refusing to let him out. The fallout was immediate. Isaac Hayes, the voice of Chef and a longtime Scientologist, was announced as having resigned from the show. Years later, his son revealed the truth. Isaac had suffered a stroke at the time, and church officials had quit on his behalf. At the same moment, Tom Cruise allegedly refused to promote Mission Impossible 3, unless Viacom, South Park's parent company, pulled the episode from rotation. Parker and Stone didn't back down. They aired it again, on loop, under the title, "The episode Tom Cruise doesn't want you to see." The rerun aired nationwide just weeks before Cruise's movie premiere. Fans called it the boldest counterattack in TV history. The message was simple. You can threaten their careers, but you can't touch their satire. What looked like recklessness was precision. South Park didn't stumble into controversy. It walked straight through it and came out stronger. Then, in 2019, they managed to get banned by an entire country, and still came out laughing. The episode, banned in China, took aim at the entertainment industry's quiet partnership with Beijing. The plot followed Randy Marsh trying to sell weed in China, only to end up in a Chinese prison where he meets Mickey Mouse, who's there negotiating Disney's global deals. The episode called out Hollywood, the NBA, and every major studio for self-censoring to please the Chinese government. Within 24 hours of airing, South Park was completely erased from the Chinese internet. Every clip, fan page, and mention disappeared from social media, streaming sites, and forums. Chinese search engines returned 0 results for the show's name. It was digital erasure, total and immediate. Most companies would have gone silent. Trey and Matt responded with a public statement that became one of the most famous apologies in pop culture history. "We welcome the Chinese censors into our homes and hearts. We too love money more than freedom. Long live the great Communist Party of China." It was dripping with sarcasm, and it worked. The statement went viral globally, gaining over 25 million views in a single day. The timing was brutal for Hollywood, especially since major corporations like Disney and the NBA were being criticized for staying quiet about China's censorship policies. South Park didn't just mock the system, they exposed how easily everyone else bowed to it. They didn't rely on luck, they weaponized outrage. And all of it led back to the one story that nearly cost them their lives, the Muhammad episodes. In 2006, Trey and Matt had already fought this battle once before. Cartoon Wars aired just months after the violent Danish cartoon protests, when most networks refused to even say the name Muhammad. South Park tried anyway. The episode featured a scene where Family Guy attempts to show the prophet, and Comedy Central censored it before broadcast. The creators responded by turning the censorship itself into the punchline. They were fighting the network on live television. In 2008, the night Barack Obama won the presidency, most of America was celebrating or sleeping. At South Park Studios in Culver City, no one slept. Trey Parker and Matt Stone had an idea so reckless it sounded impossible: to make and air an entire episode about the election within 24 hours of it happening. The result became About Last Night, one of the most ambitious TV productions ever attempted. The team started animating before the final votes were even counted. They built two endings in case either candidate won. The Obama version went live the moment the networks called the race. Animators worked in shifts, editing real news headlines into the story while champagne corks were still popping in Times Square. South Park didn't parody the election weeks later, it documented it as it happened. CNN accidentally used clips from the episode in its real coverage, confusing the show's animated footage with post-election party scenes. That was the level of realism they pulled off. By the time the episode aired, it was so current that people thought it was live. It hit air just 6 minutes before broadcast deadline, the closest call in South Park history. Comedy Central engineers had fingers on the fail-safe switch, ready to cut to a backup episode if the render crashed. Everyone called it luck. It wasn't. It was borderline madness. 48 hours without sleep, caffeine, and raw timing. Trey Parker later said the episode was one lightning strike from disaster. But it worked. They'd done something no scripted show had ever done: rewrite history faster than the news. For South Park, chaos wasn't an accident. It was the entire strategy. 12 years later, that same chaos became prophecy. 2020's pandemic special wasn't written months in advance, it was written while the world was falling apart. COVID-19 had just shut everything down, and most Hollywood productions froze. South Park didn't. They rented isolated studios, used remote software for animators, and built an entire pandemic episode in quarantine. When it aired, it pulled nearly 4 million live viewers, the show's highest number in over a decade. The episode mocked lockdown hysteria, police overreach, and misinformation, all while those exact stories were still unfolding on real news broadcasts. Every scene felt like a mirror held to reality that wasn't even finished yet. Trey Parker and Matt Stone were reading headlines in the morning and turning them into finished scenes by night. Then came the sequel, South Park Q Vaccination Special. It aired in early 2021 while protests against vaccine mandates were literally happening outside TV stations. Reporters called it too soon. Fans said it was too real. Trey and Matt confirmed they didn't base the script on speculation. They used real headlines and live news chatter to build the story. There was no buffer between the world and their jokes. This wasn't luck or coincidence. It was timing so precise it felt psychic. The specials were fearless in tone but clinically constructed. They predicted reactions before they happened. Critics didn't know how to categorize it anymore: satire, social commentary, or just real life with better writing. It was the ultimate proof that South Park didn't chase trends. It caught them mid-air. Tom Cruise took it even further. After Trapped in the Closet exposed Scientology's secrets, he allegedly pressured Viacom to pull the episode before promoting Mission Impossible 3. The studio complied briefly. Then Parker and Stone reran it with a banner reading, "The episode Tom Cruise doesn't want you to see." It outperformed Cruise's movie in viewership that weekend. Every celebrity who fought them lost. What looked like bad luck for South Park lawsuits, boycotts, angry stars, turned into perfect counterpunching. The more famous the enemy, the bigger the audience. But the show's most dangerous fights weren't with individuals. They were with the system itself. In 2005, Bloody Mary showed a statue of the Virgin Mary bleeding during a church ceremony. Catholic groups called it desecration. The episode was banned outright in Ireland and New Zealand. Viacom issued formal apologies, but the episode stayed in circulation in the US, earning record ratings. Cripple Fight in 2001 brought another storm. Disability rights groups condemned it as cruel until critics later realized it was the first show to portray disabled characters as equally aggressive, competitive, and flawed. What began as outrage turned into academic praise. Then came It Hits the Fan, a linguistic stunt in 2001 that used the word "sok" 162 times on cable TV. The FCC couldn't touch it because of a timing loophole in live content regulations. The episode didn't just test censorship, it rewrote the rulebook. In 2002, Death Camp of Tolerance provoked FCC review for obscene puppetry. The same year, it won a Peabody Award for social satire in the face of controversy. South Park had discovered a loophole no one else dared to use: legal chaos disguised as comedy. Each new episode is a gamble with everything on the line. One mistake could mean cancellation, one compromise could mean mediocrity. South Park's longevity isn't based on luck, it's built on total risk. Every script flirts with chaos, every broadcast with disaster. They've outlived scandals, networks, and outrage cycles. What keeps them alive is the same force that almost killed them: complete, fearless defiance.